everybody. And so nice to have the group together today. So we were doing a bunch of rolling before class, and just in case you missed it or forgot, I always open the room 15 minutes ahead of time to do some rolling before the class for myself, and you're always welcome to join me and roll yourself out. It also makes it so that we don't have to spend a lot of our class time rolling to loosen up our bodies. So we just try to do a little bit before we get together. And then so for class today, have a yoga block and a blanket for padding knees or hips or shoulders, whatever you might need. And so I think what we're going to do to start today is actually put the roller aside for the time being. We're going to come back to that. And we're going to start with, we're going to work on some muscles to fully develop the spine's ability to arch and extend and arch and flex, right? So kind of things in the realm of cat-cow is how we're going to start. But we're going to start with areas, and then we're going to build the whole thing together today. So what I'd like you to do is to start on your back with your block between your knees and your arms down alongside your body. So that's how we're going to start today. And just getting yourself situated so that if you need a pillow to prevent your head from feeling like it's falling over backwards, or to prevent your neck from feeling hyperextended, then definitely use a pillow. If you don't feel hyperextended in your neck, then you don't need a pillow, okay? So let's just come into this position with our arms alongside our body, feet as wide apart as the block. It has our knees at the moment. And let's just bring our attention to our breathing and breathing in and out through the nose if that's possible. Let's just start with some deep inhales and full exhales. And when you're breathing in, I'd like you to breathe in a way where you feel like you're drawing the breath all the way down into your pelvis, so that you're breathing into your pelvis and you're breathing out from your pelvis. And of course, I don't mean that literally, but you're trying to bring the feeling of movement, the movement of the breath in the body, all the way down to the region of your pelvis. And when you breathe in this way, it's not difficult to begin to sense that it would make sense to allow the pelvis to gently rock when you breathe in and when you breathe out, right? And so then the next question is, well, which way does the pelvis want to go when we breathe in? Well, the way the pelvis should be encouraged to move when we breathe in is in what's called an anterior tilt. So the anterior tilt is part of spinal extension or arching the back, right? And when we breathe out, the natural tilt of the pelvis is posterior, which would flatten the curve of the low spine, right? So when we're breathing in, we want to try to develop organically the feeling of extension or arching the low spine. And when we're breathing out, the pelvis tilts in a way that allows the spine to flatten. So breathing in, you're tilting the pelvis to gently arch the back. And when you're breathing out, you're tilting the pelvis to gently flatten the back, right? So, and this movement should feel as gentle and satisfying as the movement of the breath in the body, right? So when you start to tilt the pelvis, and for example, feel the arching of the back, if that introduces some sensation that is unpleasant, or that is painful, then you're doing too much. So do less. The benefit of breathing into the pelvis and encouraging this natural rhythmic movement of the pelvis tipping to arch the back and the pelvis tilting to flatten the back is that it begins to massage important joints in the lower portion of the trunk, right? So when we're tilting the pelvis, it's massaging the hip joints, right? When we're tilting the pelvis, it's massaging the sacroiliac joints, the SI joints. And when we're tilting the pelvis, as we breathe, it's massaging the joints in the lower spine. So let's do that one more time. And then allow that movement to rest. Take the block out, right? And just gently let the legs tilt from side to side. And allow that tilting movement of the legs to also turn the pelvis and the lower spine gently from side to side, right? So we want to make sure that we're moving the body in a gentle way, tilting the legs from side to side, turning the pelvis and twisting the spine in a gentle way, in a non-violent, non-harming way. And then bring everything back to the center and place the block back between your knees. Okay, now going to the upper body. What we're going to do is slip the hands behind the head, okay? And I know that a few of you are not going to be able to have your elbows rest on the floor. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a moment to grab a couple of pillows off the sofa and put pillows on the floor so that if you cannot bring your elbows easily to the floor, you have something that you can bring your elbows to. Because what I want you to be able to do is press your elbows to the floor or press your elbows against pillows, right? So if you can't touch your elbows to the floor, put a pillow here, put a pillow on the other side, okay, right? And so then bringing again your hands behind the head, what we're going to do is a movement for the upper trunk. So that's your head, your neck, your chest, and thoracic spine. That's really similar to what we did to the pelvis and the lumbar spine down here. Okay, so just take a moment, maybe even looking, right, in case it doesn't make sense what I'm telling you. So what we'll do is we'll start with an exhale because this will feel more familiar. As you exhale, you're going to gently lift your head, your elbows in your head, and curl a little bit forward. Now, as you inhale, you're going to lower down, press your elbows back, and arch your upper back. And then exhale, lift your elbows and gently curl forward and round your back. So you're inhaling, pressing your arms, bringing your shoulder blades together. That's extension. Exhale, releasing that and curling forwards. So you're inhaling and exhaling. And if you don't have a breath that's long enough, then take extra breaths, right? So that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfectly timed to be one inhale and one exhale. But what I want you to be able to develop is this feeling of pressing the arms against something and feel what that does to the middle of your upper back. And then releasing that and curling forward. Right? Now, when you press your arms against the floor, if you feel that all in the top of your shoulder and your neck, you haven't got it yet. So in other words, when you're going back onto the floor, if you're feeling all the contraction up here, you're not there yet. You want to feel the work across the back of your chest and encourage the feeling to be slightly down, not going up, right? And that takes intention, because the trapezius muscle is 3 parts and it's shaped like a kite, right? There's the top part, there's the middle section, and the bottom part. And so when we're doing this movement, we're trying to contract the middle part and the lower part and not the upper part of that trapezius muscle. So take your time with this movement, because I guarantee you, if you don't think it through, all you're going to do is tighten the upper portion of your trapezius muscle, right? So when you're going back and your arms are pressing against the floor, you want to feel that going across the back of your chest and down, not across the back of your chest and up. So you might have to slow it down to really develop it. Okay, so we're doing that a lot. Let's just do one more of those together. And then release your head to the mat and take the block out. And in a non-violent manner, a non-harming manner, rock. Rock your legs from side to side, right? And you might think, well, how could this be violent? How could this be harming? It can be, right? If you have a tender back that has a tendency to grab and grip, and you start throwing your legs from side to side, believe me, you will overly tighten your back muscles. You won't be able to stop your body from reacting in that way. So when you do this leg tilt or windshield wiper movement, you want to do it with a sense of flow, a sense of ease, so that the muscles don't reflexively contract in the low back, right? Now, let's come back to center. Place the block between your knees again. Bring your arms down alongside your body, right? Now, let's incorporate a little bit of this work that we've been doing with arching and flattening into the shoulder bridge, okay? So the first thing that we're going to do, laying on our backs, is we're going to develop an arch. We're not lifting our hips off of the floor. We're going to tip the pelvis, and we're going to encourage that feeling of back muscle arch all the way up between the shoulder blades. Now, let the back sink into the floor. Begin to curl the pelvis off the mat and rise all the way up into a bridge, a flat bridge. Take a breath. Melt your spine all the way back down from the top to the bottom. Now tilt the pelvis anteriorly forward. Develop the arching of the whole spine. And then soften the spine to the mat. Curl the pelvis off the mat, rising up to a flat bridge, and pause. Take a deep breath in. And then melt the spine all the way back down to the mat. Tilting the pelvis, develop the arch, right? Pause for a moment. Let the apex, let the high point of the arch be behind your solar plexus, not down here in your pelvis. Let the high point be up here at the top of your abdominal area, right? That's the high point. And so that's the highest point of lift in your back, is right behind your upper abdomen, not your belly button. It's higher up than that. If all you do to arch your back is jam your pelvis forward, you're just going to make your back aggravated. So you want to develop the lift until you feel it's The high point is right at the base of your ribs. Now soften your spine to the mat. Curl your pelvis off the floor and roll up into bridge. Take a breath. Starting from the area of your shoulder blades, begin to melt your spine down. There's some nice abdominal contraction that's necessary here. Releasing all the way back to neutral. Now the muscles of the spine contract to develop the arch, the extension of the spine. And then we soften the back muscles and we engage the abdominals to curl ourselves up into bridge. Coming up, let's do that twice more. Abdominal muscles are responsible for that rolling down of the spine. Right? We soften. The spinal muscles, the back muscles are responsible for extension, arching the back, softening the back muscles, rolling ourselves up, taking a breath in at the top, and then melting, coming all the way back down, all the way back down, all the way back down. Take the block out, set it off to the side, and gently rock the legs, turn the pelvis, allow the lower spine, the middle spine to rotate. Let that feel good, right? That's a nice release when we do the movement in this way. Now let's work on developing some spinal flexion, right? So flexion is taking the shape of a ball, child's pose, laying on our back. Pick up your feet, take a hold of your shins, okay? Without elevating the shoulders, tuck your chin and curl yourself into the shape of a ball, right? Use your abdominal muscles to get yourself here. Now, holding that shape, begin to develop the rolling. So you're staying round, looking down at your belly button at the whole time. Letting the tops of the shoulders rest and developing the roundness behind the belly button and the upper abdomen. Roll the ball onto your back and pause in that ball shape. Pause in that ball shape, looking at your belly button. Now, here we go. Release your feet to the floor. Roll your head onto the ground. Slide your legs out to straight. Reach your arms overhead. Develop the arch of your back. Bring your shoulder blades together and down your back in this position. If you can see what my body is doing here, take a look. Now I'm going to soften that as I curl my arms around, draw my feet up, curl up. There's spinal flexion. Release your feet, lower your head, slide your legs out, lift your arms up, develop spinal extension. Soften your back muscles as you circle your arms around, slide your feet across the floor, curl yourself up into that ball. There's the flexion. Release the feet, roll the head down, lift the arms, develop the spinal extension. Soften that effort, circle your arms, slide your feet up, curl yourself up, feel that abdominal effort. Release the feet, lift the arms, sliding out, developing that lift of the spine. Circle the arms out, soften the back as you drag the feet up and curl yourself up into that ball. One more time. Release the feet, lift the arms, sliding out, engaging the back muscles, softening the back as you circle, slide the feet up, draw yourself up into that ball. Now stay in the ball and get a little bit of movement going. Rolling, rolling to release. And then pop yourself all the way up. Really nice. Now, from here, let's grab the roller. From here, let's grab the roller and put the roller across the top of your mat, towards the top of your mat, and turn your back to the roller and position yourself so that the roller is just below the bottom pointy part of your shoulder blades. Okay, so you're not laying on the shoulder blades, you're just below the shoulder blades. Bring your hands behind your head. Okay, take your knees are bent, your feet are flat, but see how much space I have between my feet and the back of my hip joint, right? So you want to have a lot of space here. Okay, now we've done this before. Okay, so right now your abdominal muscles are working to prevent you from collapsing backwards over the roller. Okay, so you're going to keep a little bit of work in your core. Your hands are behind your head, your elbows are forward, but you're not jamming your head forward, right? So I really want you to feel like your head and neck are in line with the rest of your spine, which means that they're slightly curving forward, but hardly anything at all. Now, keep those elbows, right, about the distance apart, same distance apart as your shoulders, and begin to develop a movement of letting the slack out of your abdominal muscles and start to rotate backwards over the roller. Start to rotate backwards, pause, and then use the abdominal tension to start to come back up to this soft forward curve that's more neutral, right? We don't want to jam forwards. The emphasis here is on having that contraction in the abdomen and then slowly letting the slack out. So the abdominal muscles are controlling us getting into this shape. Elbows never widen, they stay the same. And then we come out of it. Now, there's an interesting thing that we can do with the muscles of our shoulders, even though our arms are stuck in this position. As you begin to go backwards over the roller, imagine that your shoulder blades are sinking down your back and slightly coming together, even though your elbows aren't going wider. And notice what that does to the muscular contraction of your upper back. Right? So the together aspect of the shoulder blades is actually not that important. It's the downward sensation. This sensation of the shoulder blades going down and the elbows aiming towards the back of the room. Let's do that one more time. Developing this elongated functional movement for the abdominals paired with this little effort of the muscles of the back of the chest. And then slowly coming out of that, right? Really nice. And let's turn to our sides. Woof! Now, from here, let's turn the roller the length of the mat and get ourselves onto the roller. So we're laying on the roller. The full length of our spine is on the roller. And your head is on the roller. Okay. So let everybody just catch up here. So you're on the roller, making sure that the roller is splitting you between your buttocks, splitting between the shoulder blades, and that the center of your skull is positioned on the roller. Okay. Now, from here, what I'd like you to do is to reach both of your arms out into a T shape with the backs of your hands touching the floor. And you might need to look at where your arms are and just make sure that they're not above your armpits, that they're straight out from your armpits. Okay. So all I want you to do here for the next 30 seconds is to keep your arms straight out to the sides. So your elbows are not relaxed, right? Your elbows are in extension, okay? So you're just holding this position. And as you work the muscles that straighten out your elbows, which are these tricep muscles here, I'd like you to intentionally soften the muscles on the front of your chest. So that takes a little bit of coordination. We're tightening the muscles on the back of our upper arm, but we're softening the muscles on the front of our arm and the front of our chest. And let's just give that 1 or 2 more breaths. Now, what I want you to do is to try to connect with the feeling of the front of your body. So just being aware of the front of your chest, the front of your abdomen, and see if you can have a sense for drawing a line right down the center of your chest and right down the center of your abdomen. And when you can do that, what I want you to do is to create a little bit of muscular tension on the front of your body that feels like it's drawing towards the center, right? And now with that, pick up your arms off the floor, and it shouldn't cause you any strain whatsoever to lift your arms when you have that connection to your center, okay? Now from here, what I want you to do, keeping your arms floating along with the horizon, is to draw small circles with your arms. Without releasing that sense of this line down the center of your body, down the center of your chest, down the center of your abdomen, all the way to your pubic bone. And you're just gathering the muscles, kind of toning them towards this center. Like you're pulling slack out of fabric towards a seam. And then pause and reverse the direction of the circles of your arms without losing that connection to the center line of your torso on the front. And then pause, and without releasing that tension towards the center line, soften your arms back down to the floor, soften your elbows to the floor, and then soften the contraction on the center of your body. So now your elbows are bent, the backs of your hands are on the floor. That gives you more of a stretch for your chest. And then let's just do one more thing here to release the chest. Let's very slowly begin to roll the head to the right. You're not twisting or sliding. You're rolling the head to the right, looking down towards your right shoulder. Roll your head back to the center. And roll your head to the left, looking down towards your left shoulder. So I don't know about you, but that produces a pretty serious stretch sensation for me. So we're going to do that one more time. Turning the head to the right, rolling the head to the right. Coming back to the center. And rolling the head to the left. And coming back to the center. Good. Now slide your arms down by your sides with your palms facing down. Okay. So we're going to do a large movement for the arms, but with a sense of direction for our shoulder blades, our scapula. Okay. So right now, just let those shoulder blades, essentially just doing a better job of getting the shoulder blades to track naturally with the movement of the arm, which is what they do. Okay. So when we begin to raise the arms up like this, the shoulder blades are already beginning to change their position, right? They are sliding, they're kind of rotating contrary to the movement of the arms as they go overhead. And then as the arms reach out to the sides and circle, you should feel that the shoulder blades are changing again. So don't try to inhibit the movement of your shoulder blades. Let the shoulder blades have the freedom to continually adjust relative to the position of the arms. You cannot outsmart them, right? So the idea is to get out of the way and allow the shoulder blades to track the way that they need to track as your arms do this big circling movement. And then let's reverse. Let's take the arms out to the sides. Up, lifting, bringing them back down. So there's all sorts of different contractions that happen automatically so that the shoulder blades are continually adjusting and repositioning relative to the arms. And we don't need to think this through. There is no cognition that's necessary other than just getting out of the way and letting the muscles do their thing so that these shoulder blades can track appropriately. Let's do one more. Big circle. And let those arms come all the way down by our sides. Good. Really nice. Let's come off the roller and turn and come up onto our hands and knees. So we'll just move the roller out of the way and come up onto hands and knees and come back to full movement of the spine. So tops of the feet on the mat, fingers spread nice and wide, your hands directly below your armpits, right? And just take a moment here to produce a slight sensation of tension in the muscles on the front of the body to support the weight of the skeleton in this posture. And let's begin by slowly relaxing the effort of support so that we can use the back muscles, the muscles of the spine, to develop the arch. Now let's come back to a neutral position, right? So some tension is necessary for neutral. Now let's keep going with that and develop the necessary tension to flex the spine. Find our way back to neutral. From neutral, we slowly release the tension in the front of the body and develop tension along the spine to create the arch. Come back to neutral. And then from neutral, we increase the tension on the front of the body to create the flexion of the spine. And come back to neutral. So as I relax the muscles on the front of my body, I shift to contracting the muscles along the spinal column to develop this arch, right? I'm not just relaxing to arch, I'm using my muscles to develop that shape. Then I come out of that shape and I come to neutral support. And from there, I continue to change the shape, contracting more forcibly, right? I hate that word. I'm not forcing, but it's a strenuous contraction to get the cat, to get the flexion, and then coming back to neutral. Let's do that one more time. Softening the front of the body, working the muscles of the backside to develop a healthy arch. Coming back to neutral support. And then developing the muscles that flex the spine. And coming back to neutral support. Let's shift our weight off of our hands and shake out your hands and your wrists to release that pressure. Release that pressure. Good. Now, let's go back onto our backs. And let's do a little bit of work to release the hips. So let's take the roller once you're on your back and put it underneath your pelvis, right? So it's behind your pelvis, and you are essentially, you're weight bearing now on the part of your spine that's called the sacrum. The sacrum is the part of the spine that passes through the pelvis, right? The pelvis itself doesn't even actually have a real back, right? It's the spine that you feel resting on the roller, and then like the nubs on the back of the pelvis are what you feel, okay? And so you should feel kind of a lumpy flat spot, if there can be such a thing. That's how you know you're in the right position, okay? And your spine has a gentle upwards curve, right? A gentle sense of extension. And so what we want to do here is we want to develop a little bit of contraction in our back muscles to support ourselves, right? So we're not just relaxing on the roller. We have a little bit of muscular support to support this position, okay? But not so much muscular contraction that it's jamming you into the arch. There is a difference, okay? Now from here, we have to actually have a balance between back muscle contraction and abdominal muscle contraction to maintain this shape when we start to move the legs. So what we're going to do is maintaining our current skeletal shape and positioning is we're going to pick the right foot up and bring the right leg up into tabletop and then place the right foot back down. We're going to do that movement several times. So this is a hinging movement at the hip joint from a stable pelvis and a stable spine. Now, sometimes people get this idea in Pilates that a stable spine is a flat back. That's not true at all. Stability is situational. And in this situation, your back is not flat. It's slightly extended, but it's stable because your back muscles are contracted and your abdominal muscles are contracted. So we have stability in our spine and pelvis so that we can flex our hip joint. Let's place the right foot back down onto the mat and pause. And now shift over to the other side. We are bringing the left leg up into tabletop and placing it down, right? All from a stable pelvis and spine that just so happens to be stable in mild extension. Now, if your back is feeling aggravated, then you're not in a mild extension. You might be in too much extension. So soften a little bit that feeling of extension, re-engage the muscles, and try again. One more time, working on this hip flexion, nice movement in the hip joint, and then place the left foot down. Okay. Right. Now, what I want you to do for a moment is put your hands on the mat and pick yourself up off of the roller, right? And just hold yourself up with your legs. Let your back muscles relax. Just hold yourself up with your legs, and you can actually sort of sway your body, your hips a little bit from side to side. I'm sort of dragging my buttocks, just sliding my buttocks over the surface of the roller, holding myself up with my legs, really relaxing my back. And then repositioning the roller, set your sacrum and your pelvis back down onto the roller, right? Engage your back muscles and abdominal muscles synergistically to hold the form. Now, let's bring the right leg up into a tabletop position, okay? And begin to do a small circling movement. The knee does not change. The knee stays bent the entire time. And I'm doing a small circle. If I were to do a large circle, it would be very difficult for me to remain stable without straining my inner thighs. So I'm doing a small circling movement, right? Maintaining that stable pelvis and spine. Pause in the center, and then do a small circling movement in the other direction. So I feel actually quite a lot of work happening in my core area to stabilize so that I can feel lighter in this movement of my hip. Pause in the center and place the right foot down onto the floor. Pick up the left leg into tabletop position and begin to do a small movement of circling the left thigh bone in the hip joint without changing what's happening at the knee. Right? I'm not bending my knee more, I'm not bending my knee less. My knee is staying the same and the movement is in the hip. Again, I feel a lot of activity in my core so that I can be light and fluid in my hip. Let's reverse the direction of the circles. One more time around, pause in the center and place your left foot down, okay? Bring your arms down to the ground, right? Position your feet so that you can lift your pelvis up off the roller and just use your legs to hold you up and let your back relax. Let your back muscles relax and maybe sway a little bit from side to side in this bridge position. It's kind of an interesting thing to sway from side to side when you're in a bridge. Come back to the center. Hold the roller steady so you can put your sacrum back down onto the roller. Good. Okay. Stabilizing spine and pelvis. Bring your right leg back up into a tabletop position. Bring your left leg up into a tabletop position. Now, this just got tricky because our tendency is to collapse when both legs are up and just drop into the spine, okay? So make sure that you didn't do that. You still have the same shape to your spine and your pelvis, okay? Make sure that your knees are here over your hip joints and not dropping over your abdomen, okay? Now, keeping your feet slightly lifted, extend your right leg, bring it back, extend your left leg, bring it back. You're stable in your pelvis and your spine as you are working the muscles of your thigh to extend and flex your knee and hip. Let's go one more time for each. And then place your right foot down, place your left foot down, lift your hips up, move the roller out from underneath you and set your hips down onto the floor and then bring your knees up and do some nice gentle circling so you feel that sacrum and the back of your pelvis just circling around on the floor. Right, so that's where we want to feel the movement. And then let's reverse that. And then pushing the roller out of the way, you can set your feet down and roll onto your side. Okay. Now, I said push the roller out of the way, but we could actually use the roller for this next movement. So let's do that. So what we're going to do is use the roller as a mild prop. So we're going to come onto our side And I'm on my left side. So if you'd like to join me on the same side, you're welcome to, or you can just set yourself up so you can see, right? Whatever works, okay? So I just don't want to confuse you by talking about left and right. So I'm on my left side. So I'm going to use the roller. I'm going to find the right spot for the roller so that when I have weight on my bottom arm, my elbow, forearm, and hand, the roller is just giving my ribs a tiny little sense of support. I'm not resting on it. It's just giving me a little bit of support, okay? And then what we can do, it makes it a little bit easier to have both legs straight when we're in this position, right? You can feel how the roller can support you a little bit, okay? Now, with both of your legs straight, take a moment to bring your bottom leg forward so you can hold your top leg straight down in line with the rest of you, okay? So you will feel a little bit more activity in your top side oblique region than you do on your bottom side. But I still want you to have just the slightest sense of tone on your bottom ribs, okay? So now, from where your leg is right now to where your other leg is, those are your bookends for your circle. So your leg will go forward and up and then in line and down, right? So I'm not taking my leg behind my trunk. I'm just aligning it as part of this circle. And I'm not going super far forward because it would be really difficult to stabilize this if I was striving for a big range of motion. It's hard enough as it is. And then reverse it. So you already might be cooked because this is a lot of work for your abductor muscles, right? So if you have to take a break, take a break. One more. Oh, and then let that leg rest. Okay, so we're going to go over to the second side. Now, as we're going over to the second side, I'm going to give you a little bit more information. So first of all, let's set it up. We have a sense of what we're doing here, right? We're going to have our legs straight, but our bottom leg is going to be slightly forward and the top leg is going to be in line with us again. We're going to be on our bottom elbow and forearm, and the roller gives us a little support. So it actually feels pretty tolerable to be in this position. Okay, now I want to talk about the way that this movement can totally fall apart, right? So when the abductor muscles are weak, we tend to do a lot of what's called gyroscopic movement. I'm exaggerating, but I'm pumping from my spine and abdomen to try to circle my leg, right? That's not a leg circle. I mean, my leg is going in a circle, but that's not what we're interested in. So you really have to be aware of where is the stability and where is the movement. So the stability is here and the movement is here, right? So let's pick up that leg, okay, and try to draw. So I can't draw nearly the same size circle on this side because this hip doesn't have the same range of motion. It's very sticky, right? Just how I am, you know, it's probably some arthritis or whatever. So I just do what I can on this side. And then reverse it. If I try to make the movement any bigger, I'm going to lose the form. So I'm just doing what I can with where I'm at. Last circle. And then rest that leg. Good. Now, let's go back to the first side, right? And we're going to set it up exactly the same way that we did with the first exercise. So the bottom leg is forward. The top leg is in line with the body. The roller is giving us some support, okay? And we're going to hold up the top leg, okay? Now, what I want you to do with this bottom foot is flex it. And what I want you to do with the top foot is point it. So here we go, keeping this area stable. we're going to flex the hip and extend the hip. Flex the top hip and extend the top hip, right? Where is the movement coming from? The hip joint. Where is the stability coming from? Abdomen and spinal muscles. Abdomen and spinal muscles are working together to create stability in the torso so that we can do this movement from the hip joint, from the hip joint. One more. Align the leg and place the leg down, right? So in the beginning of the class, we did a lot of work moving the spine, flexing and extending, flexing and extending. Now we are stabilizing, right? And I think it's also important to understand that stability is not paralysis. We're not trying to freeze the spine. There is still going to be a little feeling of movement in the torso, but it is like minimal compared to what's happening for the hip socket. It's like 90-10, you know, 90% movement here, 10% feeling in the trunk. That's what stabilization is. So setting it up the same way, we're on that elbow, forearm, and hand. Roller is helping us. The bottom foot is flexed. The top foot is pointed, okay? The movement is here at the hip socket. The stability is in the pelvis and the spine. That means that both abdominal and back muscles have to work together for us to stay stable. It's not solely coming from your abdominal strength. Your back muscles are part of this too. Now again, this is the hip that doesn't have the same range of motion in my body, so I can't have the same expectation. So I do what this hip can do. One more. Align the leg and place the leg down. Really nice. Now, let's turn and come onto the roller where we have our thighs on the roller and we're on our elbows. Thighs on the roller and we're on our elbows. Right? And then just bring your elbows a little bit further forward. Okay? So I have a little tone in my abdominals as I begin to roll back and forth. So I'm holding a little tone in my abdominal muscles so that I can roll out my thighs, which are tired from that last movement. But I don't have my abdominals, I'm not gripping or trying to be rigid. I just have a little bit of tone so that I have support, which allows me to do this movement. The other thing I'm doing is I'm thinking of my arms as pulling down into my core and trying to get out of the neck. So pulling down into the stronger muscles of my trunk to roll. And then let's go ahead and push and come off of the roller. Now, if you can do a child's pose, you won't need this. If you struggle with the child's pose, here's what I'd like you to do. Bring your big toes together, take your knees out wide, and set the roller back here. Okay? So you can keep your butt back on the roller, and you can come down here and rest in that child's pose, right? And if you don't need the roller, then come all the way down and let your arms relax down by your sides. And when you're coming into that position, that child's pose position, you want to make sure that your back is like a dome, right? So your tailbone is a low point, your forehead is a low point, and then the rest of you, you look like a turtle, right? You have this nice upwards rounding sensation, zero arch, no tension whatsoever in the back muscles when you're doing that. Take one more breath. And then you can roll yourself up out of that, right? And bring yourself around and come onto your back. You don't need the roller. Don't need the roller. In fact, make sure that the roller is out of the way so that you could reach your arms out across the floor. And then take your feet out as wide as your mat. Take your feet out as wide as your mat. And let's start to develop a movement for all four limbs and their corresponding joints that includes movement of the spine and the head. Right? So let's start by letting the legs slowly begin to tilt from side to side. And allow the head to start to counter rotate relative to the legs. And then start to twist your arms in a way that feels complementary to the movement that you're doing with your head and with your legs. Notice how you're moving your body. Are you throwing the movement from side to side? And can you just let it flow? Where do you feel stiff and locked up in your body? Where you don't feel rotation, you feel more like a 2x4 kind of rocking from side to side. And can you just maybe make the movement a little bit smaller, a little bit easier, so that the rotation penetrates all the way up and down the spine, all the way through the chest, shoulders, and arms, all the way through the legs, hips, and pelvis. Bring it all the way back to the center. And if you drifted off your mat a little bit, come back onto the mat. Bring your arms down by your sides. Bring your feet to hips distance. Pause here and rest for a breath. As you inhale, develop a gentle arch of the back. And as you exhale, roll your pelvis off the mat, pulling the spine up bone by bone, rising up into bridge. Take a breath. Melt your spine all the way back down. Pause here. Just breathe. And then inhale, gently arching the back. Exhale, rolling all the way up into bridge. Pause, holding the bridge. And melt your spine back down to the floor, releasing the pelvis. Taking a full inhale and an exhale to suspend movement. And then one more time with an inhale, arching the back. Exhale, rolling yourself all the way up to bridge. Pause at the top and melt your spine all the way back down to the floor. Slide your right arm out to the side. Pick up your right foot, cross your right leg over the left, and ease yourself into a twist. Knees to the left, head rolls gently to the right. No forcing, just allowing the body to enjoy the opening that is created when we do a relaxed twist. I'm resting my hand on my thigh. I'm not pulling on my thigh. One more full cycle of breath. And then rotate back onto your back. Reach your left arm out. Change left leg crossed over right. Turning the knees to the right. Gently turning the head to the left. Allowing the right hand to rest without force on the left thigh. Notice that this side might feel completely different. Maybe it's easier, maybe it's stickier, right? We don't have to be symmetrical to be functional. So just find the twist that makes sense for this side of the body. Take a full inhale and an exhale. And then roll yourself onto your back, uncross your legs. Bring your knees into your belly and just circle that pelvis one last time around on the floor. Circle in the opposite direction. And then you can rock yourself to one side and come on up